Welcome to the Matt Mettler podcast. It's the Matt Mettler podcast broadcast, reinvented for 2019. How y'all doing out there? I'm your host, Matt Mettler. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's a pleasure to be here. Oh, man. I'm feeling good, people. I'm feeling good. It's a weird place to be. What I'm about to say probably won't make sense to a lot of people, but it does to me, man. It does to me. So, yesterday, I ceased working at the place that I worked for 6 years and 4 months. I moved on to greener pastures, as they would say. Now, the funny part is, some people would be really upset about that, right? Some people would be very distressed by that. And I'll tell you, if I hadn't done my homework and I hadn't put my money in the bank and I hadn't done all the things that I needed to do to take care of my business, I would be in that position too. But because I did all of those things, I'm hella excited. I'm very excited for the future, man. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know exactly how it's all going to play out. But one thing I do know is that the universe has my back, man. The universe wants to catch me. And the universe wants to help me get to where I want to go, because I'm trying to get the hell out of the way of that and let the universe do its job. Right? Brand new podcast for 2019. Once upon a time, way back in the day, yours truly had a podcast. It went about 10 episodes. It was ironically in the very dawn of podcasting. I had just graduated from music and video business school and had just learned how to do digital editing, and it seemed like a no-brainer to go out there and produce a podcast, which I did. I produced 10 episodes, and it had some limited success, and even that limited success felt really good, right? So for far too long, I have been locked away in a cubicle doing cubicle work that is soul-sucking, and it's time for me to get back into the world and have a more meaningful life, people. Have a more meaningful life. That's what the goal of this is. So I'm going to take my lemons and make lemonade, baby. One thing that I know how to do is record stuff. I've been doing audio engineering professionally for a very long time, and one thing I got in my toolbox is how to record things. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to leverage it. A little bit about me. I've been living in Denver for 25 years now, and I'm calling this the Denver episode, quarter of a century of excellence living in Denver, and I got to say it's been amazing. I've traveled a long ways since I moved to Denver. I've had what you might call an incredibly amazing life since I moved to Denver, right? I've had some pretty amazing experiences that I hope to tell you about, maybe in future episodes. I was a former DJ. I did that on the radio for a very short period of time. I was on the radio, and then additionally, I worked in some clubs where there's dancers. Let's just say I worked in clubs where there's dancers, right? And then I was in the Army for a couple of years. I'm a non-combat veteran. That means that you were in the military during when there was some sort of conflict going on, but it means that you were not in that locale or zone. So I was over in Holland / Germany. Half my unit went over to the desert. I was not a part of that half. I was the part that went to Holland, or the Netherlands, as they would say. Holland is a place to us. The Netherlands is a place to the people that live there. So when I moved to Denver in 1994, I became a student of music and video business over at the Colorado Institute of Arts. I graduated with my degree in 1996, promptly moved out into the world of the concert business, right? I was pretty convinced at that time that the concert business was the coolest business in the world. It might still be. Out of all my experience, it might still be the coolest business in the world, right? And the funniest part is that it's a weird little club. Once you're in, you're kind of in. As long as you don't fuck it up, you're kind of in. So I was a professional audio engineer for a very long time. So graduated with that music and video business degree. I went out and mixed music and bands and stuff for, probably 12 years. After that, I worked at the Gothic, the Ogden, the Bluebird, the Foundry up in Boulder. I've mixed all kinds of corporate events and parties and gigs and talking heads and stuff like that. I've had the pleasure of mixing all kinds of super cool bands when I worked at the Ogden and the Gothic and the Bluebird. I've also worked at the Fillmore, McNichols Arena before it got tore down, and also the Pepsi Center. I did the grand opening of the Pepsi Center as the manager of the outdoor crew when that happened. That's celebrating 20 years. I can't believe that. So it's been an amazing ride living in Denver for 25 years, people. Also, I'm a tube amp geek. For any kind of audiophiles out there, you'll know that a tube amp is something sweet and special. I'm all about tube amplifiers. I play a little bit of music, tiny bit of music, badly on the guitar. I don't call myself a guitar player, but I like to play the guitar. And then I was a stagehand for a long time. I did that. You know, when you're in the entertainment concert business, you kind of got to wear a bunch of different hats, and I wore many different hats. So I was a stagehand and an electrician as well. Sometimes I even did lights. People. It's hard to believe. After a whole bunch of corporate consolidation kind of sucked out several jobs out from underneath me. Let's see. House of Blues was bought by Live Nation. And then Nobody in Particular Presents was bought by AEG. There was all this consolidation and all these different corporate entities kind of sucking up all these other entities. And that was creating a lot of turmoil for the people that had jobs. So at that time, that was about 2007, I decided to transition over into computers, which was my backup plan. I had been, ever since 2001, when 9/11 happened, there had been a big slump in the concert and entertainment business for quite a while because folks just didn't want to come out into big crowds back for a period of time after that happened. Folks were just convinced that every single big crowd was going to get attacked, and they didn't want to go out to shows. So there was a pretty big slump, and I was like, well, man, I need to have a plan B. In 2005, I kind of started exploring moving into computers. And then, like I said, 2007, I made that transition. I still did some mixing and stuff on the weekends, but was doing a computer's job the rest of the time. Once upon a time, in a land called Capitol Hill, yours truly might have been helping people to find an herb. I may have done that for a little bit. Maybe for about 17 years, might have done that. We live in an interesting place, Colorado. All these legalized marijuana laws and all of this has made for a very interesting society. The things that we got right on the weed policy thing is that we have perfectly and completely demonstrated that it works. It can work. The model that we have does work. It's not Amsterdam. Amsterdam's a little bit different, right? In Amsterdam, I've been there 4 times. When you're a marijuana salesperson, going there is like going to the convention. You know what I mean? You got to go to it's like Mecca or something like that for potheads. So Amsterdam was a no-brainer. I went there the first time in the military. I didn't do any drugs whatsoever. I was just saying no. Nancy Reagan was telling us, just say no. Nancy Reagan was telling us to just say no. As a result of that, I was just saying no. But going to Amsterdam as a younger guy, because I was 20 at the time that I went to Amsterdam, it showed me that their society totally worked. Their society was completely peaceful. There was no chaos whatsoever. It was so low key you could barely even tell it was going on. That's where we missed the mark, right? We're in the high key phase. We're in we want to show everybody the weed sign phase, right? I do think that over time that'll probably chill out a little bit, but it's interesting to note that we have completely positively shown that it's proof that it can work, that it's peaceful, that it's very peaceful. When you look at the number of transactions that take place in these stores versus the problems that you have relative to that, it's actually ridiculously super peaceful. And I think it proves something that myself as a stoner have always known. Stoners are basically peaceful people. Stoners really, for the most part, they just want to get stoned and be left alone, right? They don't actually want to hurt other people, or that's just not how stoners roll. Like, let's go destroy something and then set it on fire, said no stoner ever. You know, I mean, because we're just like, let's get a pizza and some drinks. How about that? You're like, dude, that sounds so much easier than going out and destroying something and setting it on fire. Let's call for a pizza. Yeah. Or let's order that bad boy online. That's how stoners roll, right? So one of the things that forced me out of selling marijuana was legalized weed. Legalized weed, in my opinion, all states should legalize weed, and here's why. It's two reasons. It reduces the viability of crime and cartel crime in your state, and two, it removes an adversarial relationship between the police and the community. That, to me, is the number one best, strongest reason right there to go ahead and legalize, is because all of a sudden, stoners and cops don't have any beef anymore. When all of a sudden everybody that falls into the category of people who might smoke some weed sometimes or do smoke weed are no longer the enemy of the police, and they no longer see the police as the enemy of them, look at how much better things are. Look at how much more improved that makes your community, right? You could actually get back to something that resembles community policing. I really do believe in community policing. That's the idea where your cops come around your neighborhood, they know who you are. You know, they know who the bad guys are. They know who the good people are. They don't mess with the good people. They make sure to take care of the bad ones, right? That's what good community policing is. And in a place where you have a trust like that between the community and the police, everything works a lot better, right? It would be nice to have that trust. So one of the things that I think is just a big upside is it removes the adversarial relationship between the police and the community. It's the best way to go. One of the things that has been an amazing thing to come out of legalization is complete vindication of the supply-demand model for the market. If you've ever wanted to see the model of supply and demand work in action in the market, look at marijuana prices. Back in the day, back in 2003, 2004, when I was buying marijuana for people, it was like $375 an ounce for Kind Bud. And Kind Bud, which is basically just all the weed that we sell now, Kind Bud was a colloquialism for a different kind of weed that was not swag. Swag is what we would call, Mexican bud, compressed brick weed, right? That is not Kind Bud. So Kind Bud was crazy expensive. There was no discount on the price. A lot of times if I bought a single ounce, it was $3.90. It was only worth $400, right? I could only sell it for $400. So it was incredibly hard to come by and to get. Now, wind all the way forward to 2019, and we have crazy weed prices. Like, you've now seen the $109 ounce, the $99 ounce, the $89 ounce, the $79 ounce, the $69 ounce, and now even the $59 shake ounce. So to go from $390 to $59, that's an incredible price drop that favors consumers. That favors the end consumer so much. The quality is better, and there's a lot more safety around the whole thing. You go into a store, it's safe. You don't have to deal with people that you don't know. You don't have to risk getting ripped off. You don't have to, you know what I mean? There's just so much upside to shining daylight on the whole entire thing and bringing it above ground. So much so that it actually makes me in favor of doing that for other things as well, because even though I don't want people to do harder drugs, to have them not be illegal and to make them super ridiculously cheap would actually remove the burden on society as a whole. Because then if you're going to be addicted to terrible drugs, well then that's more like something that you need to take on as a rehabilitation sort of thing, as opposed to society trying to mold and manipulate your will and make it all a crime, right? That's one of the things that Amsterdam has also really got great, is that the idea of harm reduction. What does the least amount of harm? I think that that's a really great way to approach problems. What does the least amount of harm? Making drugs really cheap actually does the least amount of harm because, like I said, you can't tell people what they're going to do At least it doesn't work. You can try to tell them what they're going to do, but it doesn't work. And if all of a sudden heroin went from $50 a hit to 50 cents a hit, people could slowly kill themselves with heroin, and it wouldn't be robberies and thefts and burglaries and crimes supporting that habit, right? It would be something else. They could support that habit on something else. Plus, it would completely de-incentivize the idea of bringing in illegal heroin. It would completely de-incentivize the idea of bringing in illegal cocaine. Once you have these things in a legal capacity, it completely destroys the black market. The only place where a black market can exist is someplace outside of that place. So Denver has really done a pretty good job in all of those respects. I think that it's caused a really big reduction in crime overall. I think that it's helped to reduce opioid usage. And I think it has made it much more safe for all people, everybody in the game. Whether it's the dispensary owners, the people that work at the dispensaries, the customers, everybody. It's safer for everybody. Now, here's what I'm going to say about what we got wrong on that. I think that there's too much taxes. I think that there's too much taxes around the marijuana industry, and I think that that is kind of overly burdensome. Plus, I think that now that we've reached where we are, we've had about a decade of really robust pot sales with a lot more happening in the last 5 years. But I remember 2008, 2009, that's when it really just jumped off, right? That's when the thing just blew up, huge. Here we are a decade later. We're actually now 19 years into legalized weed in Colorado, which when you put that in perspective, like when I travel to Florida, it's like traveling back in time, man. When I go up to Montana, it's like traveling to another dimension. I can't even describe it. It's so incredibly bizarre to go to these other places where they still have these completely outdated ideas around marijuana. To me, it's like if cops in other states saw how much pot we had, they would realize how ridiculous the very idea of dumping somebody's bag out or flushing it down the toilet, any of those, it's ridiculous. It's like a waste of your time. It's like throwing away a paperclip in a paperclip factory. It doesn't even make sense. And I just wish that police would recognize that it's time to change your attitudes around marijuana, no matter what the law says. It's time to just live and let live, man. If for far too long we have embraced a policy that basically has proven itself to not work. Another thing that I do not like, another thing that I think we got wrong on the marijuana thing is there is entirely too much packaging involved in the marijuana business, right? There's all these little cases and pop top things and all this plastic crap and all these Chinese puzzle boxes that, to put a chocolate bar in, and all of these Mylar bags and all this crazy stuff. It is ridiculous. One of the things that I question is, do all of these things have longer breakdown times? How long do these things take to decompose in a landfill? We really need to stop to think about how much packaging we put around a tiny bit of marijuana. I sold marijuana for 17 years in a sandwich bag, people. In a sandwich bag or a Ziploc bag. And if you're smart, you try and make it the right size Ziploc bag based on the amount of weed that's in it. When the bag looks full, it sells fast. That's a marketing thing, right? I mean, I sold weed in a Ziploc bag and a sandwich bag for 17 years. Nobody ever came back to me and reported that their marijuana had been eaten by their child. One time in the 17 years that I sold marijuana, somebody came back and said their dog ate their quarter. Right? But he said basically the dog acted lethargic and nappy. He took a nap all day. The next day he was fine. He was fine. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other side of it too, is that we're putting all of this packaging around something acting like it's really dangerous or that mishandled or misused, that you're going to have some sort of crazy episode. It's like, man, you're going to get the munchies. You're going to feel real light. You're going to want to drink a 7-Up. That's the side effects that you're going to get if you accidentally ingest marijuana, you goofballs. I don't know what you think it does, but I know that in the very beginning, I used to get paranoid when I would smoke. That's probably the number one thing that you got to worry about for somebody, is that they get paranoid, but really all you got to do is just talk them down. It's simple. It's easy peasy. I also think that there's too much hassle for dispensaries. Now that they've created so much hassle and red tape for dispensaries, they've actually created a less competitive environment from a standpoint of people that want to get in the game. The land rush phase is over now. The land rush, land grab portion of this marijuana wave that unfolded in Colorado, that's done. Now we are in the consolidation, mergers and acquisitions phases, right? Much like when coffee shops, back when there was the huge coffee boom and there was all these little coffee shops popping up everywhere. Eventually, they all got bought out. They all became Starbucks. They all became Dazbog. They all became a few brands that consolidated all of these other stores and unified it. That is what is going on in our marijuana business right now. Huge players are emerging with big capital. They're buying up other players in the business. They're taking that and they're leveraging it. They're utilizing the economies of scale the same way that you would in other businesses, right? That is the one thing that's really been an amazing transformation to watch in the marijuana business, is the way that it transformed from knowing a guy and being completely underground to being this crazy business that it has become. When you look at all the different facets, all the people that are now employed by marijuana, all of the tax dollars that we're bringing in Denver and in Colorado for marijuana, it is unreal, people. When you look at the amount of money that is coming in relative off the marijuana, it's incredible. That's part of why I think it's overtaxed. I think that what happened is when politicians saw this looming on the horizon, they had stars in their eyes for how much money they wanted to suck out of it. But I think it's unfair to us. I think it's unfair to consumers. I think that you're trying to create an enormous expense almost as a hope that it's prohibitive, right? In the hope that it will limit it, or, you know, and to me it's like, that's the wrong reasons. We have proven that there's no reason to think that people are suddenly going to just go berserk because there's marijuana. If our society was going to collapse and implode on itself because of marijuana, after 19 years, it would have happened. That's one of the things too, is that when I say we've demonstrated it, we've proved it, man. We've completely proved that you can have this thing, that it can work. It can be completely copacetic with all the rest of your society. It doesn't have to be something that's bad at all. So one of the other things that's been real interesting about watching the marijuana game metamorphosize, transform into the thing that it is now, is this move from flower to concentrates. It has been very bizarre to watch how concentrates have moved in a really huge way. And when I think about the logic behind it, it actually makes a lot of sense, right? You are essentially taking the essence of the plant, you're taking the part that you really want, and you're eliminating all of the plant material that equates to burned hydrocarbons when you ingest it, right? And that's the one thing that I'm willing to concede in the whole smoking portion of marijuana, is that burning and ingesting hydrocarbons is not good for you. It doesn't matter if it's marijuana or anything else, right? So anything that you can do to eliminate the hydrocarbons, I'm all for it. It seems to me that we have now created a perfect substitute for the actual flower, which is these concentrates, right? They are great value. They last a long time. I vape in my pen, and a gram of concentrate will last me like a week. I'll usually get like a sativa for the daytime and an indica for at night. And those two will last me 2 weeks. No kidding. It's pretty insane that you can do that now. And that it eliminates all of this other stuff, right? Yeah, there's just a lot of really great upside to it, right? Where you're not burning it, you're vaping it. That's a plus, because there is no hydrocarbon production because you're not actually burning anything, right? That's great. The other thing is that we have received a whole bunch of marijuana immigrants in the state of Colorado that have moved here with the hopes and dreams of planting a marijuana crop and making a bunch of money. But I think for a lot of these folks, what happens, they arrive, they find out that even if you grow a basement of marijuana, one, it's very difficult to get the kind of quality that we're talking about at scale that these guys do. You really got to know what you're doing. You really got to pay attention. You really got to love on it. It has to be a real job. You have to undertake it as a scientific undertaking, not a hobby. If you're growing marijuana as a hobby, I guarantee you it will not be good enough to even touch what we got around here. It'll only be the low-grade marijuana that actually doesn't have very much resale value, and it's the kind of stuff that they would just blast into a concentrate because nobody would want that stuff. It's truth. So that has eliminated the profit potential for black market growers. Another thing that has been a really good benefit, upside to the legalization of all this, is that no demand for Mexican or cartel weed in Colorado anymore. I don't know of anybody that has or that sells or that wants to partake or buy Mexican marijuana. They just don't. That has been great for eliminating cash flow to criminal elements who want to muscle in on the business and try and take legitimate business people and take their money. I think that's really great. All of these things have benefited everybody here when it comes to the whole marijuana game. So one of the things that I really want to talk about is that Denver sure has grown in 25 years, people. Denver sure has changed a lot. McNichols was knocked down and they put up the Pepsi Center. Mile High Stadium was knocked down and they put up what is now Broncos Stadium. We now have light rail that goes all over the city. When I first moved to Denver, light rail was kind of something that was just in the works. They were just talking about it. We now have light rail that covers a pretty good portion of the Denver metro area, and that's pretty amazing. The T-Rex project was undertaken and completed. And I have to say, looking back retrospectively, that was a great move on the part of Denver. It was really painful for 10 years driving down I-25, right? It was really painful. But now that thing has been widened out, it is actually a lot better. I got to say, it is actually a lot better driving on I-25 through the center of town now. Not nearly as bad as it once was. So when I was an audio engineer, I'm going to transition into that a little bit. When I was an audio engineer, I had the distinct pleasure of mixing a lot of really great bands, really great artists, people like Ziggy and Stephen Marley, the Horror Pops, Type O Negative, Down, Avenged Sevenfold, Flight of the Conchords, Kitty, and even Barack Obama. I even mixed Barack Obama one time when he was on the campaign trail. That's a whole nother podcast unto itself. One of the things I'm really hoping to do with this podcast is support local businesses and local business owners and try and get a conversation going in the community. Try and get people talking to each other, try and get things happening, try and benefit our community, right? Like that would be a great side effect of this, and I would really love to see that happen. So because this is the introductory episode, I want to talk a little bit about some of my favorite local restaurants to eat at. The first one is the Ethiopian restaurant. That's down on Colfax. It's right near, I want to say East High School. I'm pretty sure it's near East High School there. It's been there since 1985. It's run by a really great guy named Ngusi, and he has the best Ethiopian food in Denver in the entire metro area. I've only tried a couple other places, and it was out of convenience, and each time I was disappointed. Go see Ngusi. He's got the best food in Denver. There's no doubt about it. If you've never eaten Ethiopian food, give it a try. It's got a great flavor and spice profile that it's like nothing you've ever had before. Once you get addicted to it, you will be back, right? There's only one Ethiopian restaurant that's worth going to, and that's Ngusi's, the Ethiopian restaurant down on Colfax. Another great place that I love to go and eat is a place called Euro Crepes. Euro Crepes is down on Broadway, pretty close to the Ganja Gourmet. They have the most magnificent crepes. I happen to love the Germany. That is a ham and Swiss crepe. It is delicious. But they have many others, and they have dessert crepes too. Euro Crepes, that's a great and fun place to go have a really neat experience enjoying crepes. A great restaurant that I love, it's only been here for a few years. I want to say something like 5 years, maybe. Not exactly sure, but it's called Juicy Burgers and Dogs. Juicy Burgers and Dogs, kind of south of Fiddler's Green, down there off Arapahoe and Yosemite. Great restaurant. They are hand-making wonderful beef patty hamburgers. They have this magnificent Wisconsin spreadable cheddar that they put on your burger. It is fabulous. They are lovingly putting your food together, and they're doing a great job. They're knocking it out of the park. Go see the people at Juicy Burgers and Dogs. Another wonderful restaurant that I absolutely love is the Great Australian Bite. The Great Australian Bite, people. It's over at Arapahoe and Parker, and they have the most magnificent meat pies and sausage rolls and smashed peas and smashed potatoes. That's what they call them. And they have all kinds of great foods that they eat down under, right? It is great. The gal that is putting that food together is doing a magnificent job. Everything is beautifully baked. These pies are made from puff paste, and they're so good. Oh my God. Go to the Great Australian Bite, people, and thank me later, okay? Another wonderful place that I love to go and eat is the original Pancake House. That's kind of in the DTC area. On the weekends, it's super duper busy. On weekdays, it's very busy, but it's more doable. I like to sit at the community table there. The community table is a lot like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. I like that, though. You never know what kind of people you're going to sit with or talk to or meet. I think that's fun. I think that we should do that more often. There's another great place out there that's also kind of specializes in similar food. That'd be Sam's Number 3. Sam's Number 3 is over at Parker and Havana. Dude, their sweet cream pancakes are amazing. They're to die for. They are worth the drive. I would say that you could fly from another city just to go eat those particular pancakes. Get some sweet cream pancakes over at Sam's Number 3. They're incredible. Another favorite of mine is a place called Coca Rose. There's 2 locations of Coca Rose, but I always go to the original one over there by Colorado and Evans, kind of over in that area. That is a great Japanese restaurant. They have like rice bowls and beef bowls and chicken bowls and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And it is great. It is wonderful. Another great restaurant is the Chuck Wagon, a local Denver staple for quite a while. The Chuck Wagon is affordable and they do a very nice job. I would say they could use some help. So go over there and see the folks at the Chuck Wagon, get some food. Another magnificent restaurant over here in Parker is a place called Kalana's Pizza. Kalana's Pizza. Oh, man. They are making a magnificent New York style pie with a thin crust. Their crust is perfect. It's got just the right chew to it. Definitely go over and get yourself a Kalana's Pizza. Another great place that's downtown on Broadway is called the Spicy Basil. That's a Thai restaurant and one of my favorites. They have received several awards throughout the years for being the best Thai restaurant in the Westward. And I completely agree with that assessment. I think they are the best Thai restaurant. Go see the people at Spicy Basil. Great place to get a burger is Jim's Burger Haven. Jim's Burger Haven, been around for quite a while here in the Denver metro area. There's a couple locations. I love Jim's Burger Haven. Very affordable, quick, and good food. Another place that I enjoy is called Teriyaki Madness. The Teriyaki Madness is down off of Arapahoe, kind of, again, sort of just south of Fiddler's Green. They serve, in a similar vein to Coca Rose, they have chicken bowls and rice bowls, beef bowls, vegetables, things like that. And they are wonderful and affordable. There's a place in Parker called the Chicken Shack. Oh, my God, man. I love the Chicken Shack, people. I love me some fried chicken. I grew up eating fried chicken. I love fried chicken, and nobody does it better than the Chicken Shack, right? It reminds me of Mom's because it's not like that fake breading that you get at all these other places. It's coated, not breaded, right? It is so good. Go get some chicken at the Chicken Shack. You will not regret it, I assure you. And then the last place I'm going to mention is a Denver favorite and a local staple that's been around forever called the Breakfast King. The Breakfast King's down in Mississippi and Santa Fe. If you've never been down there, well, then you owe it to yourself to go to the Breakfast King. It is not fancy schmancy, but it is a reliable place to get a decent breakfast and or any other kind of meal. They actually have a pretty large menu there. I've been going there for almost as long as I've been living in Denver, so nearly 25 years. And that place is a great place to go. It's also very popular after the clubs close, so there'd usually be a pretty good crowd in that place after, 2 in the morning, 1:45 in the morning. There'll be quite a few people up in there. Also, one of the safest places in Denver to eat a meal because police love to eat there, and they eat there all the time. Police could walk in at any moment, so that's got to be one of the safest restaurants to enjoy a meal in anywhere in Denver, right? The Breakfast King. So my next topic is, would you like to be on the show? Would you like to be on the Matt Mettler podcast? Because I sure would love to have some people on it. I sure would love to talk to some people that are local business owners, entrepreneurs, artists, or performers, people who are in bands. I would love to talk to any of those people regarding what you're doing, your experiences, what you think. I would especially like to talk to some people who perhaps are dispensary owners and get their impressions about their ideas around what they think the marijuana business is in Colorado, what they like, what they don't like, what they wish was different. I would love to hear those voices and hear what they have to say. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'd like to thank you all for listening. I'd like to really thank you all for joining me. There is no Matt Mettler podcast without people who listen to it. There is no me without you. Right? This thing doesn't happen without fans who love and listen to the show. And I'm really trying to develop something that will get people to talk about it, that will get a conversation going on in our community, right? I want to thank you all for listening. Like, subscribe, share, give it a thumbs up. You can leave comments, and all of those things really, really help me out when you do that. You don't even know. If you want to get a hold of me, you can just go to mattmettler.com. Super easy, right? There's many Matt Mettlers in the world, but there's only one mattmettler.com. If you go there, I guarantee that you'll be getting a hold of me, all right? You can email me, or you can text or call me. My contact information is right there on the page, and I would love to hear from you. So thank you, everybody, and I hope that you'll join me on the next episode of the Matt Mettler Podcast. The Matt Mettler Podcast is a Matt Mettler production. Copyright 2019.